Sound good though. But yeah, so one mechanic in this game I really want to talk about because I think it's pretty important that you understand it if you are new to this game, or even if you're a long time player and you just never really learned it, is IB. I want to talk about IB, also known as Instablock. Instablock is a pretty big deal in BlazBlue because it can kind of make or break some offense in this game, right? It could definitely do a lot for you and a lot against you if you are or are not prepared for it. As you guys already know, there's two different kinds of blocking in BlazBlue, right? We have normal blocking, where you just hold back and you block, right? You have to obviously block lows and all that stuff, right? There's normal blocking, and then there's barrier blocking, right? So barrier block is, all right, barrier block is this, right? So the difference between normal blocking and barrier blocking, the most obvious difference is, one, barrier blocking negates chip damage, right? So that's one big thing. Barrier block negates chip damage, whereas if you do not know, normal block does not negate chip damage. Let me cut off health apparently too. Hold on, wait. There we go. There you go. So you see? So one of the big things is that barrier block helps negate chip damage, whereas normal block does not negate that chip damage. You would still take chip. There's a third way of blocking in this game called insta-blocking, right? So let me finish talking about regular block. So regular block, you cannot get hit by attacks. It keeps your opponent relatively close to you when you insta-block too. So if I do this entire string, you see I stay pretty close to Susanoo, but he can be chipped by specials and things like that, right? So now if I turn on barrier blocking, here we go. So what barrier blocking does is it pushes your opponent further away from you, right? So you see the difference when I do just B and C, you see how far away I go from Susan? Compare that to the normal block where I say like right on top. A good way to tell actually is to put him in the corner, right? So if he's in the corner, if I do like jab into this, you see I'm still within jab range right there. But if I do that same string on barrier block, so you see I get pushed out of jab range, right? So that's why barrier is so important, right? It can help kind of push people away from you if you can't deal with their pressure. It is very good against his character Susan, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So IB, what this does for you now is a few different things. It's called, the way that you insta-block is, as you block an attack, you have to go to neutral and then press back, right? As you're blocking the attack. So look, so if I have Susan do this, boom, 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 boom. I messed up, hold on, wait. I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what we'll do. All right. So we're gonna have Susan do 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So if I wanna IB that, what I have to do is, as I block the attack, I have to manually tap back. So you look at my inputs, you'll see that I manually go to back on that 6B, the 2-hitting move. And that is how you IB. So now what does that do for you? So it does a couple of different things. So the first thing IB does for you is it actually builds you more meter on block. I guess I'll cut off meter so we can actually see this. Where is heat gauge settings? All right, so if we start over, I can gain heat normally and keep it cool. So for example, if I block this Susan string, you'll see blocking it, I gain 2 meter, right? But if I IB during this string, you see I gain 6 meter. That's only IBing one part of it. I didn't even IB the entire string. If I IB the entire string, if I'm that good, I'm not that good. Hold on, wait. I keep missing the IB right there. There we go, boom. So look, I IB 3 hits and I build 8 meter as opposed to IBing nothing and building only 2 meter, right? But anyway, so that's the first thing about IB, right? So obviously it builds you more meter on block, which is always a good thing, right? If you can IB, you can build so much meter, and that meter can be used for defensive options. It can be used for combos, extensions, pressure extensions. Meter can be used for everything, right? Another thing that IB does for you is that it actually gives your opponent less frame advantage on block, right? So for example, Susan's 6B is normally plus, right? So you can do something like 6B into like 5A to frame trap most people, I think. Let me see. Oh, I did not do it right. So, bow, bow, bow. There we go. Did I save it? I didn't save it. That's why. Bow, bow, bop. There we go. Bow, bow. So you see right there, I try to jab him. We trade. There might be something faster I can do. I don't know. I don't play Susan. But the point is, you see, I'm not at an advantage after blocking this, right? Or I'm not getting a clean punish after blocking this. But if I IB it instead, you see that I beat him clean, right, for IBing. So IB in this game will always shave off 2 frames of advantage from your opponent. So it can make certain things that aren't normally punishable. It can stop some of your opponent's pressure. Another good example of that is actually Ragnar's. What is it? Was his Hell's Fang? Not Hell's Fang. Yeah, Hell's Fang. So the first of the Ragnar's Hell's Fang, if you IB it, it becomes punishable. Whereas if you don't IB it, it's just safe. On the other hand, right? So that's another example of how IB can work in your advantage. So there's one more advantage from IB. Let me double check. Oh, and then the other big thing about IB that also changes, it actually reduces the amount of pushback, right? So to kind of show you that again, I'm gonna put myself in the corner. I'm gonna take off this input display so you can actually see. And I'm gonna have Susan pressure me again, right? So I'm gonna have Susan do 1, 2, 3, 4. So note at the spacing that he's at when he's done, right? So if I have him do this again, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see, he's still within jab range, right? Well, he's going to be in jab range regardless. But if I IB there, you should see it should leave him closer. So now he's even closer than he was before. So it leaves your opponent closer, allowing you to get better punishes in a lot of cases as well. So we've already named a couple of good things about instant blocking, right? So 1, it builds you more meter. 2, it makes your opponents have less frame advantage when attacking you, sometimes making moves punishable when they're only safe. And then 3, it also leaves your opponent closer to you, allowing you to get better punishes, right? So those are some good things about IB, right? A lot of good things, a lot of good use tools. The bad thing about IB, obviously, is it requires you to manually come off of block and then press back, right? So one thing that you can kind of mess up about when you're worrying about IBing is if your opponent decides to like go low or something. So if you do something like this, so right, so if I go like that's not a low. What is a low with this character, bro? Hold on, I don't know Susan on. There we go, Jesus. Okay, so if your opponent decides to go low, right? What can happen is if you're pressing back during that, oh my bad. Let me just block him the first time, I guess. So what happens if you're pressing back during that? You can still get hit low, so you have to manually down back, you know. So if I want to IB low, I gotta down back IB there, right? But if they go for an overhead, obviously if you're busy mashing low a bunch, you know, you might accidentally get hit overhead. Or if you're too busy focusing on trying to IB, they might go for a throw, and I might throw off your timing or something like that, right? So you want to be careful about where you IB. You generally want to IB during strings that are very predictable or kind of like autopiloted strings, right? Like Ragnar's doing stuff like that, right? Those are usually places where you want to IB situations like that. Also, any multi-hit moves, another cool thing about IB is that if it's a multi-hit move, it'll automatically IB every hit for you after the first one, right? So to kind of show you a quick example of what I mean by that, let me switch characters really quickly. So for example, New has this 5C, right? So if I IB just the first hit of that, as you will see, I'll just IB just the first hit. It IBs the rest for me, right? So any multi-hits in the game, it'll automatically IB all of them. So that's another good place where you can kind of sneak in IBs is during any kind of multi-hitting move. Very, very good, right? So the next part about IB that's really important. So as I kind of showed off earlier, we also have barrier block in this game, right? Barrier block, like I said, a lot like Faultless Defense and Guilty Gear. It keeps you from getting chipped out. It pushes your opponent further away from you. So if you're dealing with pressure you don't want to deal with, you can push them farther back. But just like in Guilty Gear, just like in Guilty Gear, barrier block does give your opponent more frame advantage, right? So if you end up not pushing them out of the range you want to escape their pressure, you could end up holding even worse pressure than you were already holding. But instant block works in junction with barrier block as well. There's a thing called instant barrier blocking, or IBB, right? So we have IB, then we have IBB, which is instant barrier blocking. So what instant barrier blocking does is you keep all of the benefits of instant blocking, but the opponent gets pushed further away from you. So kind of what I mean by that. So we're gonna have Susan record this thing here again. Boom. So we're gonna see a bunch of different. So first we have just blocking, right? So if you look, we just block. You know, he's right there. He's plus in our face. Kind of sucks, right? Then we have IB, right? I kind of missed the last IB there, but if you see the last IB, he does not get pushed as far back. So now if we barrier block Susan, you see he is pushed further away. He is pushed out of my 5A range. He's still in 5B range because Ragnar 5B is the God button. But if we instant barrier IB, I missed a bunch of those. Let me try that again. You see he gets pushed even further back, right? He gets pushed real far back. So what IBB can do for you is if you're dealing with a character that needs to be right in your face for pressure. So for example, if I set him to instant barrier block, you will see if I do something like this. See, you can cause buttons to whiff, right? If you are adept in IBB, you can cause a button to whiff, or we're gonna go for something like this. Right, it'll put me out of range of this mix up here, right? So if I want to do something like this, oops, I keep missing it. That's not far away enough. I can't actually push myself far away enough. But that's the thing that Ragnar does, right? Sometimes I'll do that, right? And I'll block string into 5D. You see, because he's instant barrier blocking right there, the first hit of my 5D is actually whiffing. And if you were prepared for that, you could get a punish on him or something like that, right? Or jump out of the pressure at the very least, right? Whereas if he was just barrier blocking, a barrier block would do the same thing too, actually. But if he was just instant blocking, that would leave him closer, so he would have to hold all of that. Or if he was just normal blocking, once again, it would be closer, so you have to hold all of that, right? The reason why I bring this up specifically against Susan is because Susan is a character where instant barrier blocking and just IBing in general kind of mess them up a lot, right? I mean, obviously you can use this against a lot of characters, like I said, to cause punishes where they don't normally exist, to make things easier or harder for your opponent to deal with, or to just escape pressure, right? So if I'm blocking something like this from Susan, right? Yeah, do something like that, right? That seems good. So boom, that's the string we're gonna go for. Let's see if I can. Oh, I didn't IB any of that. Let me try it again.
Approximately 10 hours later.
That's a perfect example of how IB barrier can be used. Right? Perfect example right there. So that's why IB barrier is so important. That's why IB in general is important. Everybody, that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching this video today. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a like and a comment down below telling us what you want to see next. Do you like this kind of content? Do you want us to do a different style of content? Please let us know in the comments below, as well as, like and subscribe if you haven't already done that. With that being said, I'm Master Stuff. This is Level 482 Productions, and we'll see you guys in the next BlazBlue video. Peace out.